Well, hello. Thank you so much for joining me today as I share about practical and compassionate tools to help you process and adjust to the changes that are happening in your life. So I can't tell who's here. I can tell some people are here. So as you arrive, if you could please say hello in the comments below, it'll just let me know that you're here. And I have a request. If this has been helpful for you, if you would please, after we're all wrapped up, share on your page, just share this video. And the reason for that, honestly, is that I think most of us just we haven't really been taught how to handle change, at least not taught well. And so the more people that could learn about how to be compassionate with themselves and some practical help to work through changes in life, the better. Okay, well, thank you. And William, I can see that you're here. Thanks for joining me. Well, whether you like it or not, life is always changing, right? Like, just when I think I've got the whole thing figured out, or whatever the situation figured out, and then it changes again. And so that just happens all the time, right? So if that's happening to you, you're just like me. Alrighty? Well, I've got some good news for you and some bad news. The good news is that you are normal for feeling out of kilter and not always knowing what to do when life changes. You're just like me, okay? But the bad news is it's kind of always going to be this way. I know you didn't want to hear me say that, but life will always be changing. And you and I will always need to adjust and take care of ourselves as we negotiate the change itself, the emotions that go with it, the logistical things that we have to deal with. So life will continue to change, but there's ways to make it a lot easier and to help you navigate those changes while being kind to yourself at the same time. Hi, Lauren. Thanks for joining me. Well, change can come in lots of different areas. Our relationships can change. Our finances can change. Our living situation, our work, our dreams. Sometimes they've been realized and then we're not sure what to do. Sometimes those dreams are not realized and we have to adjust. Unexpected circumstances. If you think about in your life, what things are you going through now did you ever expect would happen? Probably not many. So unexpected circumstances especially are difficult. Relationships can change in the sense of births, new marriages, dating, death, divorce, separation, estrangements. Like, our relationships change a lot, often in unexpected ways. Oftentimes we have change in the sense that we go through disappointments in people, in organizations, in churches, and in areas where you really were sure it was going to be a certain way, but then it seemed to not be. We have change through moving, relocating, loss of support, and a whole bunch of other ways that you could completely fill in yourself. And all of these ways, all these changes, have commonalities. They all have stress, different things to deal with, and they require us to adjust and process through the logistics of getting through whatever the change is, as well as multiple layers of emotion that goes with those changing situations. They also require us to interact with other people who are going through those changes as well, who are affected as well, and who may or may not be doing very well with those changes. What's important to realize that life's changes can be positive and desired, something we've hoped for, but they can also be unwanted and negative. And sometimes the same event has both. Sometimes the situation will happen where you're so excited about it, but there's some drawbacks too, and there's some things you have to give up at the same time, or you have to adjust to. So just realize a life change can have both positive and negative experiences to it, and that's very normal. So it's so important to find ways to respond to yourself kindly during the changing situation that you're going through, even the one you're going through right now. So today I'm going to share with you 3 different types of strategies and tools that will help you navigate these changes in your life. Okay, so number 1 is garner the support you need. And when I think of the word garner, I think of like trying to gather together from different areas, different types of support that you need. And it's essential to get support from a variety of areas to help you navigate what you're going through, not just to rely on one person or one situation, because nobody can do that for you, but to get it from a variety of places. And when you do this, it will make what you're going through so much easier, and it'll take the edge off. And because the reality is, we are not meant to go through whatever you're going through alone. You're not supposed to know how to do whatever this is. The word change itself implies that this situation is new and unknown, okay? And sometimes we expect ourselves to know and be good at processing through a stressful situation that we've never been through before, which doesn't make any sense. And this includes joyous occasions like a birth of a new baby or a new marriage or a new job. And for example, let's say you have a new baby, but you've had children before, so you think, well, this wouldn't be that hard because, well, you've never had this particular child before, right? And you've never had this child in the realm with everyone else, right? So realize that even wonderful new things have a lot of change associated with it, and the feelings and everything that come with it are perfectly normal. And sometimes we totally get down on ourselves for that, all right? Well, support, the word support, looks different for everyone. And so as I'm sharing, think about the things that would work for you. Some of them will, some of them won't. All right? So give yourself permission to think about using the ways that work for you, but not everything. All right. So here's a few possibilities of types of support. Okay, one, for some people, getting a lot of information through books, online searches, getting information from others is important. Whatever they're going through, if they can gather information, it helps you feel not quite so out of kilter because you understand more, okay? For another person, the support they need is actually to give themselves the time to journal, to process things through individually, to pray, to walk, to rest, have time with God. For someone else, yeah, it might just be time for yourself, okay? Another person, and you might have all of these at different times, by the way, another person would be talking with others who's gone through what you are going through. So let's say you're all of a sudden now you're a caregiver, and you don't know anything about it, you don't know how to do it, but you also don't know how to care for yourself in it. You can talk to a friend who's in that situation, or let's say you have a child with challenges and you're not sure what to do, or maybe you have been, but now they're at a different age and you're not sure. You can talk to other people who have those same kind of things that they're dealing with. Somebody who's made an unexpected move and now you're going to make an unexpected move. So, each person's situation is different, and that person that you talk to, theirs may not be exactly the same as yours, but they will certainly understand some commonalities that other people may not. All right, and then another would just be talking to other people who can be supportive to you in ways that for you are really important. For instance, it really helps to share your thoughts and your feelings and your questions and get empathy and understanding. And maybe for you, you don't want advice, you don't want input on what you should be doing, but you really would value just being able to have a place to share. And that can happen with friends, with family, with support groups, perhaps with a minister, with a counselor. And the idea is that it needs to be what for you is supportive. Okay, not what for the other person is supportive, but what for you, what you need. Okay? Another would be seeking comfort and hope from Scripture, from prayers, from music, from time with God, to be able to connect spiritually with whatever it is you're going through. Very, very important. And decide, and the next one I would say, and this is a level of support because it's going to be from you, all right? So decide to be a kind and compassionate friend to yourself throughout this life change. So I'm going to give you an example. So 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I, was waiting for the call for the doctor after the biopsy. I had a sense it probably was positive, but until you hear that news, you're kind of in limbo. So the doctor told me it was positive, and the whole thing that was going to be happening, to have surgery and then chemotherapy and radiation. And, I was in total shock. I was grieving. I was just like, wow, I just can't even believe it. How am I going to get through this? And honestly, the second thing that came to me, I actually said to myself, I think I even said it out loud, I am going to be a good and kind friend to myself through this process. And then a year later, when after all the treatment, I got pulmonary fibrosis, and that's an even harder battle, to be honest, I said the same thing to myself. So it's important to be ready to be there for yourself by learning how to give yourself compassionate words, to do self-care, to just be there for yourself in the ways that you need, to not be an enemy to yourself with what you're going through. And if you're like, well, I don't know how to do that, I don't know how to give myself self-care and support, I would tell you that just by being on these video chats with me, and there's a bunch of them, there's 4 even below this one that I've done in the last month, that will give you some good input. And I do have to say that I know of a really good book too, that I wrote, frankly, called Give Yourself a Break, Turning Your Inner Critic into a Compassionate Friend, that no one is supposed to really know how to do this, okay? And so if that could be helpful to you, I hope that you'll take advantage of it. Because being a friend to yourself through whatever changes you're going through is so important. So those are some ideas that I've listed for give yourself support. And here are some questions that you can ask yourself right now about what you're going through. You could always return to the video later and ask them and write them down too. So first, what kind of support do I need? What is one supportive thing I could do for myself today or this week? And think about times in the past where you have created support through something you've gone through. What has worked for me before? What kind of support when I've gone through challenging times in the past? Because most likely what has worked for you before will be helpful now. Okay, number 2. First one was garner the support you need. Number 2, be kind and compassionate with yourself. So, really important, okay? Whether you had part in the stress you're going through or not, treating yourself with kindness and compassion and gentleness is extremely important. So whatever changes you're dealing with are taking a lot out of you. They're taking a toll on you. I know you can feel that. And adding on shame and condemnation and lack of grace towards yourself will make what you're going through so much harder. So please be kind to yourself. And one of the ways you can do that is by giving yourself permission to, I'm going to list a few things, okay, to not know what you're doing. Right? Give yourself permission to not know what you're doing. Give yourself permission to learn how to navigate this new life change a bit at a time. Give yourself permission to have mixed feelings, even about something that's positive. Give yourself permission to be resentful, angry, hurt, and sad about the change in your life. And give yourself permission to take time that you need to gather information or talk to others or seek help as you navigate these unexpected places that you're in. And then here's some kind words that you can say to yourself. So I'm going to repeat them as if you're saying them to yourself. Okay? So, I'm overwhelmed right now, and with good reason. I have never been through this before. I'll figure out how to do this new challenge a piece at a time. I'm not supposed to know how to handle something I have never been through before. No one does. I'll look for whatever little bits of encouragement and support that I can see. I'll ask God and others for help and look for unexpected answers. See, treating yourself with compassion and kindness can make all the difference in the world. So I hope that this helps you think about maybe different ways that for you would really help in being a good friend to yourself. So here's some questions to ask yourself right now about being kind to yourself. What types of kind and compassionate words do I long to hear? How can I be kind to myself right now? All right? And then what is one supportive thing I could do for myself this week? So those are some practical ideas and permission to give yourself and words to say to yourself about point 2, which is to be kind and compassionate to yourself. Number 3 is Give yourself time to adjust, okay? It's normal and healthy to need time to adjust when life changes, even when it's a good change, all right? Sometimes change is unexpected and involves grief and confusion and disorientation and lots of emotions. And honestly, it is unreasonable to expect yourself or those around you who are also affected by what's going on to immediately adjust to whatever the change is like it's no big deal. It is a big deal, all right? So I'm going to give you another example from my life. So 2 years ago, when I went to my pulmonologist, which is a lung doctor, I was all ready for him to give me a positive report about how my lungs were responding to the recent medication that I was on. Instead, I received the exact opposite report, and Dr. S is what I call him. I'm not going to use his name. I don't want to get myself or him in trouble, but because he ended up to be not that great of a doctor. But Dr. S told me that actually my lungs were much worse than they had been, and I would have to push around a supplemental oxygen tank whenever I moved around. That's how it started. I didn't have to use it when I was sitting, but if I moved around. And so now I have to use it all the time, but back then that's how it was. And I was in shock, and I was outraged, actually. And I told him, I said, you know what? I am 57 years old, and I am not going to push around an oxygen tank as if I was 80 years old. I'm not going to do that. And he just looked shocked, and he's like pausing, and he said, well, you could carry a portable oxygen concentrator, a little machine that takes the oxygen in the air and supercharges it and sends it back to you. You could carry one of those in a backpack. And I said, well, okay, I'd be willing to do that. And I had a huge fight with my insurance company. I've had many fights. I'm in one right now. And I eventually got one because I bought one myself. And I will not go into that whole story, but it was not a good story. But anyway, I ended up getting one. And I will tell you that it took me months to feel comfortable using it around other people. Oh, even around myself, actually, but especially around other people, because I felt, maybe I, quote, shouldn't have, but I did. I felt embarrassed, uncomfortable. I felt self-conscious. I felt like somehow I was doing something wrong. And at first it was actually hard to look anyone in the eye when I was wearing it. And for 2 months at least, I would go grocery shopping 5 miles away because I felt so uncomfortable. And not because I was wearing it, because of what was going on, but also if someone asked me about, oh my gosh, what's going on, I would break into sobbing because I was just getting used to the idea that I had pulmonary fibrosis, which is very serious, and that I would have to be on oxygen the rest of my life, and a whole lot more actually that goes with that. And I would break down in tears, and I didn't want to go through that in the grocery store. So I needed lots of time to process all of that. And, you know, people were very kind to me for the most part, but for me, I just needed time. So that's just an example. The point of the whole story is to let you know that it takes time to adjust to major changes, even if they're positive, okay? So give yourself permission to get used to things a little bit at a time. And you'll make all kinds of mistakes, and you're supposed to, because how are you supposed to not when you've never done it, right? You'll make progress, and then you'll have to learn something new all over again. So think about yourself right now. Think about a major change that you are going through right now, all right? Treat yourself with compassion about this change and how it's affecting you. Give yourself permission to be on a learning curve. How about saying some kind words to yourself like this? This is so hard to get used to. I never thought I'd be in this position. I'm really happy about what's going on in my life, but it's actually hard to get used to this change. Or, I'll give myself time to learn how to handle this just a little bit at a time. It's normal for me to be struggling right now. I'll get support from God and from myself and from others to get through this challenging time. So I hope those kinds of words help you understand that it's very normal and healthy for you to take time to adjust to what's going on in your life. So here are some questions for you to ask yourself right now or return to the video later. All right, so think about the changes going on in your life. What type of major changes am I going through? How am I minimizing what I'm going through and the effect on my life and expecting honestly too much of myself? What are some kind words I could say to myself this week? So in summary, it's normal to feel mixed up and confused and to not know what to do or what's going on even when life changes. Change is stressful, and we need to give ourselves time to adjust and process through the logistics of what is happening as well as the emotions of these changing situations. And it's so important to find ways to respond to yourself kindly during those challenging situations that you're going through, and I know that you are. And today I shared with you 3 strategies to consider to grab up all the support you can in whatever ways that work for you, to be kind and compassionate to yourself, and to give yourself time to adjust. And I also encourage you to ask yourself some important questions about specifically what's happening for you, and gave you some compassionate things that you could say to yourself. So I hope that this was helpful to you. And I just saw a comment here from Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie. She said, she put here, whenever I listen to you, more wisdom, my body relaxes. I'm so glad, but I'm very glad, okay? Here's the thing, and I want to encourage you with, all of you, is that when you can learn to talk to yourself in kind and compassionate ways, when you can actually view your situation a little bit more realistically, like, would I be expecting someone else going through this to think it's no big deal? Would I expect somebody else to just adjust right away? Would I expect somebody else to, put their feelings away and not be realistic about what's happening? No, I wouldn't, right? And so as you can do that with yourself, as you can learn ways, and I know it's not natural, really, I do, but as you can learn ways to treat yourself, to even look at yourself in a kind, compassionate way, it will really help you too. Like, your words can actually help you relax, which is pretty cool. And I mentioned a couple of times ago that I actually recorded a CD of self-compassionate statements and some actually self-soothing exercises that are available. I'll put the link to it below later. But and really it came out of, like, seriously, like 50 people asking me after I gave a talk if I had these statements recorded, and I was like, no, I don't have them recorded. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll record them. And I've sold hundreds of these things, and the only reason I say that is that nobody knows how to say these things if you're just learning. It's just how it is, right? And so it's one thing that takes some time, but there's help here from me, and I'm sure other places as well. So I just really encourage you to continue to join me on these if they're helpful for you, and to really advocate for yourself with yourself, all right? To be a good friend to yourself, whatever you're going through. So I'm so glad to be with you today, and I would ask that if you could comment below what was helpful for you today, what really struck you, what really made a difference for you in the comments below, and that just helps me know what's helpful for you. And then again, if you could share on your page if you feel like it was helpful and you'd want others to know. I really just want as many people as possible to learn. The topic today is what to do when life changes, and how to get help, and how to get support, how to be kind to yourself, and how to be a good friend to yourself through whatever you're going through. So thank you so much for joining me, and I plan to be back next Friday at 1 o'clock to share some more with you. All right, so you take good care of yourself, all right? And it's just my absolute pleasure to be here with you today. All right, so goodbye for now.